recycled everything.
And we are going to call to order the meeting of the Hollis School Board. First up is agenda adjustments, nominations, resignations, and correspondence.
We have two pieces there tonight. We're going to add, with the board's permission, just a discussion around special education.
Okay.
Okay. And then for correspondence, Gina is going to do an update on board docs.
Yes.
Okay, as we're learning and growing with the new software. There's no nominations or resignations. We have just the one opening, and that's at the primary school, which was a result of our third grade teacher taking the library media specialist position, and Paula has interviews scheduled actually tomorrow. So we'll see how those go. And I'll turn it over to Gina to kind of run you through some update.
Is there a mic? I can grab this chair, but is there a microphone that I can use?
There's an extra one.
Yeah, use this one. I'm just gonna. Yep.
We'll just put it right there.
It'll work.
Close enough. We're gonna improvise.
Speak really loud, project.
Okay. Give us a moment. So as we shared in our discussion of the new website, in looking through different school sites and districts, especially complex multi-district SAUs, we kept coming across board docs as a resource, software tool that other districts used. We continue to progress through our work with the website development, and then we came across the issue with our policy site, where our policy site became problematic, and we needed to recreate all of our policies and find a new way to house them. So in looking at different options for housing them, board docs came up again, and we really needed to move forward with a quick solution to make our policies viewable to the public. So we decided that we were going to move forward with board docs, and in doing so, although the first time I was looking at board docs, I thought it was a little bit clunky myself, not really understanding how it was structured. But then going through the training, I realized that there are quite a few benefits to board docs. We'll see. Just try to reconnect. See if that'll help. So one of the benefits is we will be able to house our agendas, our minutes, and our policies all on board docs, and they all become searchable. So we can search class size and pull up any policy, agenda, or minutes where we've ever discussed class size, and immediately retrieve that information. So long term has. Am I not?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. All right, so how do you utilize this tool? So here's our new website. And you go into school boards. You can go directly into the board and find it. I will show you that option. So just as you were able to find our meetings and minutes and everything over here, it now sort of directs you to use board docs, and then there's a how-to document right below to help guide folks. But I will show you that you can also go just right over here under school boards from the FAU page and then go to board docs directly. One thing to keep your attention on is up in the top right corner. You have to focus on which board you're located. And so we have the Hollis School Board right here as an option. We also have featured meetings right here. So this is the next meeting right here, so you can click directly into the featured meeting. But if you really wanted to just search through prior meetings, this is where you would do it. Now over time, we'll load all of our prior meeting agendas in minutes, but right now we're still just getting our feet wet. So when you click on that, you'll be able to view the agenda. And here's the agenda over here. If it has a file right here, that means that there's an attachment. And so you can click.
Okay, that's good because
See
that,
the attachments.
I was looking for files and I was like, where is it?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Okay.
And so you can click on those reports as separate files.
That's great.
Another piece to note is if you go to print, you can print the detailed or print to a PDF the detailed agenda.
Wait, print a PDF? I didn't notice that.
Well, you can
Can
just,
you?
You can just print.
If you hit print and then you can always.
You
Oh,
choose
I
the
see. I thought you
PDF
meant there was a
as
special button. I
And then
apologize.
detailed agenda within there,
Okay.
these are links as well. So you can look at the agenda and then have clickable links to the supporting documents for each section. And that's essentially board docs. I'm gonna go just quickly show you Brookline for a moment, only because they've had more meetings. So we'll look at the special meeting. This is also where you'll view the minutes. So it's right there, directly next to it, and the meeting minutes look similar to what we know and love, but they're just directly attached to the same area you'd find the agenda. So,
Keep going.
so that's board docs. Like I said, it's going to be a slow roll. For our September meeting, or prior to our September meeting, the board members will have access to their specific logins, which will give them the ability to view our recording secretary's outline alongside the agenda, and that can help with the flow of the meeting. But we were trying to go slow to go fast. So it is an adjustment because it's different, and we've been working off of agenda packets for years now. But what we're going to have Tammy do is for the next meeting, she's also going to scan a copy of the complete agenda packet so you can have it in the old form, in the new form, and then hopefully everyone can have it in a way that works best for them.
Are you saying that the old form will always also be sent to us, or are you saying that's a transitional?
We're saying that she's going to do that for a few months,
Few
and then
months,
as
all right.
people get used to it, we'll see. Maybe we can continue it, or maybe folks decide they don't need it. We'll take feedback.
So can I give you a little tiny bit of feedback right off? Today on my way here,
Mhm.
I realized that I didn't know if we were having the meeting at HPS or the upper.
Mhm.
And I'm used to just clicking on the agenda, seeing it at the top and rolling on. And that's a little trickier to do here. I didn't see that way. Let me see why.
It's under 6.
6 p.m. call to order.
You know what? It's easy. It's visible on the printable one,
Okay, so
but not the one.
what you've got in front of you isn't what happens when we go just directly into
Yeah,
this. So if we could find a way to, is there a way to add a line? See, that's what I'm looking at. Is there some way to add a line,
Sure.
location,
Mhm.
meeting location in there?
Absolutely.
In order that it's all
That-
in one
that-
place
that
for
came up-
everybody?
That came up in Brookline as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I
Yes.
I've spent some time with this, so I was able to find it, I'm happy to say. There's a lot of benefits to this, obviously, and that's great. On the other hand, when we got it as an attachment to our emails that were delivered to us on the Thursday prior to the Wednesday meetings, it's all one unit, and the whole agenda and all the packet pieces are all in one scroll. That's pretty great, because I don't know if I've clicked the right arrow often enough. I don't know if I've, you're leaving it to me, and y'all know me, to make sure I click through every one of the agenda items to see if there are attachments, to make sure I look through everything, and it's just easy to miss stuff.
Yep.
I don't know how searchable that can be for a member of the public, or any of us, looking in hindsight a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I don't know if there's some way to address that. The lack of the overall thing being in one unit that.
So I would say going to the detailed agenda is the easiest way to see everything at once, because it will show you under discussion, here are the attachments that go with that.
So I've clicked on agenda,
Mhm.
and I see, the agenda on the far left, like you've got it.
Yep.
Where did you go next?
Up right here to print.
So it's at print that you get this searchable, overall, long scrolling form. Simple, detailed agenda. I see there's okay. I don't mind getting used to that, me personally, just on my own, that's fine. but I'm not sure that that is user-friendly for the public, et cetera. So I just, it's
Yeah,
just a
like
comment.
print
It's,
means print as opposed to like view, you know, but I mean. It's,
Right, I mean, and then view, you do see here that there's an attachment. I agree, it's definitely different. And
yeah,
it will
so we'll
take
have to
some
get used to
getting
the
used to.
attachment icon showing, right, and getting your attention and making sure you've clicked through. But for example, in a website or on, say, Google, if I'm Googling something and I get 1 million shots, when I come back to Google later, the ones I've already looked at are purpled out, and that doesn't happen. It's
Sure.
harder to track that you've seen everything
Mhm.
this way, and I'm concerned that, you know, I come to the meeting unprepared even if I've tried,
Okay.
because it's all disaggregated like this. So just a concern that if there's a color change that could happen, or if there's some way to sort of bring back that assistance to the eye to make sure you've caught everything, that would be
Okay.
Okay, I'll look
helpful.
into
But
that.
if not, we'll adapt.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to retroactively put in prior meetings?
I don't think it's difficult, it's just time consuming.
Time consuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they'll be uploaded as, from what I gather, they'll be uploaded as a searchable PDF, but you won't necessarily see it broken down like that. So you'll be able to search the prior years,
Right.
which we
Okay.
don't currently have the ability to do that.
Okay.
So
And are we doing that, or is
that's, we are doing that. And the policies, oh, by the way, so over here to the right, is a policies button, and we have been in the queue since July 1. Our policies are ready to go. They're all in electronic format. They've been sent over to board docs, and the person who's doing the upload is on vacation this week, so hopefully we will have that shortly.
Mhm.
But that's where we'll find them.
And in the meantime, the policies are currently
They're still, yes.
yes, on our website.
Mhm. And when we do switch over, the link to policies will just simply link you to here. So either way, whether you go through board docs or through our old policy link, once they're here, you'll get here either way.
And we'll maintain a print copy always, as we've always done, right, of policies?
We are yes, we're required to,
Always,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Just in case. Okay, so that, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes.
Okay. 2 seconds.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'd like to move to approve the minutes of the Hollis School Board public meeting of June 7th, 2023, with the following amendments. Page 2, line 9, replace "and" with "to" between 2000 and 2016. Page 4, line 1, the sentence should begin with "in." Page 4, line 1, capitalize "fund." Page 5, line 16, parking should be lowercase. Page 7, line 25, correct the spelling of strategic. Page 8, line 14, replace administration with administrator. And keep in mind that Member Levesque should be, should abstain.
Can I have a second?
Right, sorry.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, 3, opposed, and abstain. Okay.
And then we have a couple more. Hollis School Board, I move to accept the minutes of the Hollis School Board public hearing of June 7th, 2023. The following amendment was offered. Page 3, line 23, replace "is" with "are." And again, Member Levesque should be abstain.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? 3, opposed, and abstain.
Okay.
Great.
And there we have it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, it is time for public input. I'm not seeing anyone here for public input, but we will leave it open. So if anyone should arrive in the next half hour and would like to give public input, we will hear what they have to say. But in the meantime, we will move along to the discussion of the principal's report.
I'd like to once again thank Candy and Paula for all their efforts to put this together. They started off with providing us the important dates. At HBS, August 8th, we have the virtual RTI Learning Academy for anybody who's interested. On August 21st, Hughes has their new student orientation at 10 a.m. On the 24th, we welcome the incoming kindergarten group and new students on the same day. And the 28th, staff is back to school, and August 31st is the first day of school. Under building and grounds, up at Hughes, we have the fourth grade wing is presently, all the tiles have been removed. 2 classrooms have been completed and replaced. The other 3 will probably be done by early next week. And then we accepted delivery last Friday of air handler unit number 3, which is a massive rooftop unit that's taken us, I think it's 3 years. Yep. 3 years between COVID and delays and finding the particular unit. So the crane put that up on the roof, and they collected the electrical. There's some mechanical checks that are going on, but that'll be all good to go when we open. At the primary school, we're in the midst of organized chaos. And it's amazing how much change occurs from a day-to-day point of view. Presently, all of the bathrooms have been stripped down to nothing, and now we're in the rebuilding phase. They'll all be ADA compliant. The only snag we hit, in the bathroom that we closed early, we found asbestos underneath the floor tiling in the glue that held the old floor tiling down. So that has been completely taken care of, removed, properly disposed of. But that bathroom, which is the second grade bathroom on the bottom floor, will probably take an extra week into the school year, so it'll be just like it was when we closed the school year, until we can get that functioning. But other than that, things go well. All our kitchen equipment is in. This Friday, we will start to pour the last of the openings with concrete. The new pad has been poured for the new freezer. That freezer is a self-contained unit, so it just gets delivered and put on the pad, and the kitchen will have access to that through the old kitchen, but the old freezers are gone. And at the end of the meeting, anybody wants to take a quick tour, I can give you kind of just a sample of where we are at with some of the bathrooms, just so you can answer any questions if somebody were to ask you. But it goes well, and Tammy and I, actually, we had our meeting today, a ton of meetings today. And we're still on schedule with everything going well. And the company has been very good to deal with. Also, I just wanted to highlight, as you know, we added the second grade classroom. So what was there with the reading and math room has been relocated, so all the second grade classes will be together. The reading and math room went to up 1 floor to what was the environmental science room. And the environmental science will do their instruction in the library media center on the days that they're unable to go outside. Most days they're outside. So it is a very workable solution. We will be providing Ms. Happy with what I'll call an office space, a storage space for all the pieces she needs. As I mentioned, Paula is doing interviews tomorrow for that 3rd grade opening. Other than that, we are staffed except for para and food service personnel. So if anybody's interested in being a paraprofessional or working in the kitchen, we would welcome an application. But we're in really good shape. When we look at it year over year, we're quite happy where we're at. This is the first time really in a few years that we've had a full custodial crew, and staffing at both schools goes very, very well. So that's it for the principal's report. I'll take any questions that I might be able to answer.
Do you know how many open para positions we have approximately?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I know it's down, and we're seeing applications.
Okay.
We're conducting interviews, which last year at this time we couldn't find bodies.
Okay.
So that
So
is
that's good.
changing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we expect to have
We're
fully
hoping,
staffed
yeah.
by, okay.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll make a note and I'll send an email just with that information.
Okay, thank you.
I kind of covered much of the building project update in the principal's reports. The facilities committee meets every Wednesday in this building, and then our architect does a weekly tour and provides us with an update to monitor the flow of the construction project. The budget committee and that is kept informed through their memberships and the memos that we send out. Really, the biggest piece was that one piece of asbestos and the glue. That's probably the only unexpected that we've hit to this point. And we were pleasantly surprised that the air handler unit arrived on schedule. We really weren't sure that was going to happen. But that went very, very well. So we should see more what I'll call drastic change in the next week to 10 days in terms of more concrete coming in, things being closed up. But the new bathroom situation is going to allow us to have all our bathrooms that are ADA compliant, which will help us out in a lot of ways with some of the children that we service.
May I comment, just
Yeah,
to
oh,
back
yeah.
up what Andy's talking about, since you two are new to this, the word asbestos is so scary. The state and the district have overseen the asbestos content of this building since it was installed in 1952. And it is trapped inside of glues and paints and things, and we've never had any kind of issue with any inspection. But when you open a piece of this building, there is every single time there's a surprise. It was presumed we'd gotten rid of all the asbestos from some interior windows. Keep in mind, this building had had 2 additions over the years. So things that were on the outside ended up on the inside, things like this. So what Andy's describing is under the tiles there was an adhesive applied a million years ago that turned out to have asbestos. And the reason we know is that we took the precaution of having it tested. So the work had to stop until the testing was done. And then there are specialists who remove asbestos, hazardous, et cetera, et cetera. So those folks came in and, like Andy said, took care of it. So this isn't something where the contractor just got a pickaxe and a shovel and dug up some
Sure.
old rock. It's a meticulous process. Our Turnstone is our contract manager, and they're on site all the time. They've got lots of experience with this. We unfortunately have lots of experience with this. And when that door was put in, they found asbestos in the original whatever. So we have experience with removing it correctly and disposing of it correctly, and no one is in any way at risk. The job site shut down until it's all done according to. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
The staffing update, I will send you the update on the para situation. As I said, we are interviewing for 3rd grade tomorrow. We should finalize that in the coming days. So really, energy and the excitement is starting to gear up. I know Paula is dealing with just keeping staff at bay who want to get into the building and get to their classrooms. I don't think they sometimes realize the state of what the building looks like, even though we have sent out some pictures for them. The budget update, I passed out a memo to you, okay? And I just wanted to kind of go over that so you'd be aware of it. It's not something that we have to decide tonight or what direction we'll take. But every 2 years, the state of New Hampshire does their budget. This year in the state's budget, they increased adequacy in a variety of different ways. So that means the adequacy aid that will come to the Hollis School District will be greater than what we anticipated when we did the budget. We don't have the ability to simply add that to the budget and decide to spend that, because the budget was approved by the taxpayers, the legislative body. So there is a mechanism, if the board chooses, probably early September, once we have concrete numbers, that they could hold a special meeting to see if the residents wanted to utilize that money for the schools. Or the other option is the board could decide not to utilize that money, and it would just filter down and come through the process, and at the end of the year, you would have more money to offset next year's taxes. So either way, there's a benefit. It's just a matter of how you choose to use it. And each of the boards will look at what mechanism they will use. And we've done both. It all depends on where the budget is and also what the dollar amount's going to be. We could also look at having a special meeting, getting permission to spend a portion of the money. And we may use that to enhance the purchase of the flat panels or things like that that we've talked about as a way of accelerating that, which may enhance education. So I provided you the memo that I received on the 26th of July that kind of just goes through the dates and times. We won't know what our final number will be until August 21st. Okay? And at that point, there is a set process that we would have to follow if we choose to have that special meeting. Right? And again, you do not have to have the special meeting. I'm just going to provide you with all your options, and I'll make a recommendation. Because in Hollis, we have a little more flexibility because we have the unreserved fund balance, and we have the contingency fund, whereas Brookline only has an unreserved fund balance. And just like Hollis, their enrollment's growing, so at their last meeting, we added a teacher that wasn't budgeted for, just to bring down the ratios. Whereas if we were to do that in Hollis, we probably just would have gone to the contingency fund. So again, it may be a lot of discussion just to simply say, no, we're just gonna let it go to the bottom and offset the tax rate. Okay? So more news will be coming, and probably a good discussion at our September meeting. And I will also provide you the guidance of how the meeting would be conducted, because it's an annual meeting. So we'd have a night at the middle school again, we'd post a warrant article telling the voters that this is what we're seeking to do, why it happened. But with the state budget not ending until June 30th, this happens pretty much every 2 years. Sometimes it's a slight negative, and we have to find money, which just means the taxpayers incur more, and other times it has gone in our favor like it will this time.
So the dollar amount for the state adequacy, it changes basically, there's an update every 2 years?
No, they chose to do an update. It has been stagnant for many, many years. I think if you followed the news, there have been a number of court cases recently of districts suing the state regarding adequacy. So they did change the numbers in the calculation. And so that will be the calculation, so it's set for 2 years. So when we do next year's budget, we're working off a very concrete adequacy number because it's based on enrollment. Yep.
Again, the state does its budget in 2-year cycles for itself, so that's, I think, what Andy's referencing.
Right.
Andy, do you have any ballpark sense of what this amount would be? I mean, we're talking a couple thousand, 50,000, $1 million?
I would say, just to be very conservative,
Yes.
think about, $400 or $500 per child.
Okay.
So enrollment times that. So, that, and that's why I'm not saying that we're looking at the whole amount to spend the whole amount. But if there were some projects from an educational standpoint that we've had in our budgets the last couple of years that we have delayed, this could be an opportunity to look at increasing how we distribute that technology or different things like that. But we'll have it more in a package. I just didn't want, because there'll probably start to be some articles in the paper, and I just wanted you to be aware that this is in process, and no district knows what their final formula is because it's also based on free and reduced, how many third graders are reading below proficiency level. There's just so many categories that have to be calculated. And I do want to actually commend the state. They're doing a very nice job of keeping us informed, and this memo really helps us from a planning purpose.
What is NHED?
New Hampshire Ed.
Oh, I'm used to seeing DOE, so
Yeah.
this is the shorthand that when they talk to you, they do it this way.
Some people
Okay.
have started to sign it that way.
Okay, fine, thank you.
What's DRA?
That's a Department of Revenue Administration.
So that's the
Okay.
state level IRS.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think it's important for folks to think about how many different agencies a school district is accountable to. a lot of times the public seems to think that the Department of Ed and just goes directly to us and directly to the students. But we're an employer and we have to answer to all the state agencies any employer does.
And once we pass the warrant articles and the votes are done, we have to file a form which the outgoing board signs, and that goes to DRA, because they are kind of the oversight group for any warrant article that was passed. And that's why they would need to see some sort of vote from taxpayers saying that they want to authorize the use of these potential increase in revenue. Last topic for discussion was special education. I wanted to let you know and compliment Sarah Prue. We are finalizing and finishing up ESY. That program was held over in Brookline this year. We've had it in a variety of locations depending on construction. And Sarah and John Verite, John is her counterpart in Brookline, coordinated that working with Lauren. So for those students who require services year-round, that has gone very, very well. She's doing a very nice job working to attract paras and creating flexible schedules. If there are people that are interested and we can work around their schedule and support kids' needs, we're doing that. As you know, being a first-year administrator is never easy. Being a first-year special ed administrator is a wealth of paperwork. To support Sarah, we have enrolled both her and Jonathan in the New Hampshire Special Education Administrators course. It meets once a month, and it takes them through all the different pieces of that. She'll have internal SAU support and mentoring. Lauren obviously is just a phone call away. Lauren has a regular schedule with her building people, just like Gina and I do with the principals, to sit and meet with them, and then she holds regular meetings with the whole group together and covers topics that are specific to that. One of the areas that Lauren has suggested and we supported, we are going to be providing some further support with the primary school programs, 3-4-year-olds to kindergarten. We have some people that down the road I think will become administrators in special ed. So this is a way to give them a stipend and work with them and take a few of those meetings and pieces off of Sarah's plate, because that intensity level, especially when it's a 3 or 4-year-old student, because it usually means you're coming in with a significant disability. And we're learning about you at the same time parents are learning about their child. That's probably some of the most difficult days we have are when our youngest come in for their first times. Parents are concerned with leaving them, and I don't blame them. They're 3, they're 4, so oftentimes they'll be in the hallway for a little while and this and that. And again, it ends up very, very much a positive. But at the same time, that's a big transition, and we're, historically in education, we weren't doing that with 3 and 4-year-olds. The first time a child was seen in school was kindergarten. So they're with us 4 days a week in a self-contained program. They have non-handicapped peers with them, and that has been, I would say, eye-opening, how much children learn from their peers. We've always known that, but I think how much they learn at a younger age, I think sometimes we underestimate how much information children pick up. So that goes very well.
And I will say it goes both ways. The typical peers are learning, empathy and things, and then obviously the non-typical students have the typical peers to model behavior.
Right.
So, yeah.
We have, I think, are very much ready for a very good year in special ed. Both of our principals are former special ed assistant principals and have done Sarah's role, so she has support there. So I just want to really touch upon that, because I know as we're getting ready to open, that was probably the only significant administrative change we had. So I just wanted to let you know that we will support her tremendously and make sure that we walk her through the year and kind of get her through the budget process and different pieces that will be new to her.
So I have a handful of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's hard to frame all my questions, they swirl in my head, so I apologize if I stumble. The intensive needs students, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, we have K through 3 students who are also, I think, designated under a special intensive needs program, right? I mean, how you characterized the social emotional component for the families, for the students, for their introduction to school and all of that is beautiful, and I've seen it. I think a lot of us have seen it, and it's can't be overstated how dramatic and important that transition is. We are responsible as a state public school for students who are identified from the age of 3, the day they turn 3, until the day they turn 22.
22.
So this isn't just something we're doing because we believe in it, which we do, but it's something we're mandated to do one way or another, right? So we could send these 3-year-olds out of district, technically, if we didn't have programs or educators on site who could meet the needs that the teams identify and the services that they're required. But it is, as Amy so much taught us in the past, it's the best for the students to stay in their communities where their families live and where their peers live and go to school and learn the ropes here. It's also less expensive for us when we have a critical mass of students like we do. But my understanding, which is definitely a lay understanding, I'm not trying to be a know-it-all, is that especially these very young children require a significantly larger intensity of therapies that are, not therapies, but services that are not just, ABC and not just the social emotional and not just learning to walk and run better with the OT, but a lot of technical services, as I understand it, that are really technical, like the ABA things and beyond. A lot of biological things, physical things. I recall hearing a parent mention, feeding schedules. There's a lot of technical that goes on to address these students' needs, as I understand it. And I want to feel, I'm not skeptical of what you guys have put in place and how you're pursuing it, but I'm at the same time uncomfortable. You've worked with me a long time, I squirm. So Sarah Prue couldn't be of a higher character. She couldn't be, I couldn't be happier that someone of her caliber has taken this role, but she is new to the position, and it can't be overstated how critical the documentation and the amount of documents, the monumental amount of work is involved in the accountability side and the management side of that position. I can't see how one individual can cover the entire building, the entire district. And I just want to feel more assured than I feel, emphasis feel, not think, that the stipend arrangement that you've put into place is actually going to result in enough oversight that we don't miss anything. That, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, I think there's always a concern, so what you express is valid, with missing something, because it's a very intensive programming,
Right.
It's very paperwork driven, but at the same time, we have a veteran special education staff.
Right, that's true.
So with Sarah taking over, she knows all of these people and has existing relationships with them, which I think will allow her to be able to make sure she delivers the services. When I say we're looking at stipends, we're looking at experienced people in the preschool to K realm who have been working with that age group for many, many years.
So they're just they're willing for the stipend to add these responsibilities
Yes.
to
You know,
their
yeah.
their work.
Well, they're willing to add the responsibilities. They're also looking for growth.
I see. I see.
They
Okay.
eventually may aspire to be a Sarah, whether it's here or someplace else. And this will allow them to start to better understand the process, because sometimes as a classroom teacher, you know your components of the process, but don't know the other side of the process.
I would say that's a significant
Yes.
element.
Yeah,
all
so
throughout.
by doing that and starting to LEA, be the representative at some of the, I'll say easier special ed meetings. And when I say easier, it's because what's being discussed.
Right.
a child with multiple disabilities is going to have a lot of people at that table.
Right.
You know, OT, speech, PT, maybe a behavioralist,
Medical,
a host.
lots of things, right.
Exactly.
Right.
Those cases pretty much always and continue to bubble up to Lauren.
Okay.
Because we've found, you know, by taking those larger cases on right away, you're going to develop that relationship with that family.
Right.
And once you develop that relationship, you're going to be able to grow. And I think the other thing is, folks have learned that if we truly don't believe we can service your child, or we're not servicing your child in the best way, we have an obligation to place that child.
Right.
And we have done that in some
Yes.
cases. The numbers are low, but we've also done it and seen students return to us because something that was, we weren't able to provide, maybe they learned a new strategy at a different place, coping skills or a learning mechanism, and now they're able to bring that back and function in the least restrictive environment, which is what we want.
Exactly.
So I'm really excited for a good year, and I also am very comfortable because I have two veteran principals.
Right.
It's not like I've got a principal who's brand new and a brand new special ed director. And I think Sarah has that existing relationship with both principals because she's worked in both buildings, that she'll have that comfort level to see them. And we'll continue to monitor the situation, but I can say, in talking with colleagues across the state, I'm very excited by the administrative team that we have across the board now, because a lot of them have been grown internally through PD and these type of stipended approaches to kind of, it does two things. One, they get a sense of if they can do it, but we also start to learn whether this is the next person who's an up and coming.
I would argue that this district for a number of years has had significant success in developing talent and retaining it, except for one monumental case. So. The other question is probably my memory, but is at fault. Mrs. Pam Mullins is the new school psych in this building.
Mhm.
I'm sorry if you told us last time and I can't remember. So this is a person with experience or a newly minted. I'm sorry, I can't remember if you've already told us. I should have.
I don't have that up.
Sorry,
Yeah.
is that the person who
So-
would be, that we're talking about? I'm just a little confused
Right.
about how many people are we talking about? I have a lot of questions, actually.
Oh, go ahead.
So I didn't, but I wanted to wait until you've gotten through yours.
Please pick it up
Okay.
and run with it, by all means.
So these people that you're referring to who would
Mhm.
receive the stipend, they would be serving as LEA, in certain cases
Correct.
with that, in order to kind of like, allow
Correct.
Sarah to,
Mhm.
ramp up
Yeah, right.
okay. And, how many people is there?
We're just looking at one or two.
Just one.
With, and they're basically at the preschool to kindergarten.
Okay, so we're focusing on the preschool and kindergarten, so it's all this building?
Correct, because that's also a different developmental piece.
Right.
So when you're looking at preschool, you're doing so many more social elements than necessarily the ABCs, as Tammy said.
Right,
Yeah.
and so these people are people who are already involved in that program? Is that
Yes,
right?
and they've been with us for a long time.
As educators in the program?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is how we did it in the past. For a
Mhm.
significant number of years, we had somebody who,
Right. This is not,
So this has been done in the past,
Yes.
We
exactly
did
the
it most
same way?
recently this past year.
right.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So we have been doing it, it's just we're looking to, again, share the load more.
Okay, and so this was done this past year
Yep.
in the Hollis primary?
Correct.
Okay.
and also in past years. There was a period of several years
Yep.
Maureen was here, so we have, it's not just the past year. But
Right.
there was an
Okay.
era when we also had
As enrollment
a
has gone
large-
up and down,
Right.
this is also kind of a bridge.
Uh-huh. And historically, was there like any level of oversight, or like you mentioned, the more complex cases tend to bubble up.
Mhm.
My question is, how do they bubble up?
Well, first of all, the easiest way they bubble up is when we get the student's file. and we start to read through and realize there are significant issues. I mean, it could be, a student may require a one-on-one nurse. So I mean,
Okay.
a host of issues, and that's going to be very complex, have a lot of different.
So that
funding-
determination would happen even before
Correct.
the first
yeah.
day?
Yeah, I mean, when that type of file comes in, that's gonna make it over to Lauren's desk, because each of those services is going to have a cost.
Okay.
So there's
Yeah.
also a budget piece of this.
Yeah, so I guess, my concern is that I just wanna make sure that whoever's acting as LEA understands the law and
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
requirements
Oh,
well
yeah.
enough to be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
conduct meetings
Yeah.
properly and address parent concerns
Mhm.
and, just make sure that they're in their depth, I guess, is.
Yeah,
is
no,
my-
I agree with you totally, and I can assure you that there's no concern with that. We're not talking brand-new special educators, we're talking people who have been with us for a number of years.
Okay,
I assume
great.
they have their master's degrees or something very close.
I don't wanna say yes or no off the top of my head, but these are veteran people. We have very few people in Hollis that don't have a master's,
Yeah.
period.
Okay. And, I think it's important that parents know that, like, the buck doesn't necessarily have to stop at the LEA
Mhm.
at that
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
And that if they have concerns, that they can go to,
Yeah.
someone, bring
Abso-
it to another level.
At every meeting, the first thing a parent gets, even if it's your 100th meeting, you get your rights. So those are
Right.
handed to you, and you sign off that you got them, or you sign off that you didn't need another copy because you have so many at home already.
My house,
Yeah.
I have a shelf like this.
So, we will, and we have never taken the attitude of not wanting to assist our parents. So, there have been times where parents have taken us to mediation, but there have been times when we've taken parents to mediation. Because our responsibility is the child. So, as parents should know, you can go all the way up the chain, past the superintendent, to the state,
Well, parents should know, but do they know? Like, in other
Right.
words, do
It's
they
built.
know
Yeah.
that beyond the acting LEA is Sarah, and then beyond
Yep.
Sarah is Lauren? That's,
Right.
I guess that's the part that I wanna
Yeah.
make sure is there.
Yeah, I would say they do because of getting their rights, and again, I would say it's kind of the opposite for us. If the LEA struggled at a meeting, she's probably gonna, I would hope,
I would
he or
like
she
to
is gonna
think.
say, they're gonna say, I'm gonna turn this over to Sarah, she'll give you a call, we'll schedule another meeting, or if it's something to do with, finances where Sarah's gonna go to Lauren anyways, we try to just shorten the path. As a parent, it can be very frustrating. It's kind of like being on hold, and you went from one person to the next, and by the time you finally get to the person you want to talk to, you're really upset. So if we can skip a couple of those and get you to the person you really need, that's our goal.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so I just wanna make sure that there
Yep.
is some
Yep,
mechanism for oversight there.
yep, absolutely.
Okay.
That's a great question.
So I'm not comfortable stopping there.
Okay?
10 years at this, like you, it's been very clear to me that what makes a thing happen is culture, because all the rules can be broken.
Mhm.
So if we instituted draconian feedback loops with Sarah having to attend every meeting or anything kind of like that, that's not going to, I learned also a lot from when you came on board, Andy, and you institute a somewhat different way of evaluating teachers in the classrooms. You had other protocols that you brought with you that seemed to be very effective, that we hadn't tried before. So it isn't always the heavy-handed sort of director sitting in on every meeting that works. It's a culture of expectation. And I hope the staff hears us and understands our expectations, is that you're never wrong to ask for help because you don't know what the parent's talking about, or the parent's very upset, or something's not working, or you're not clear on the law. The
Yes.
culture in this district has to be ask for
Right.
help.
Yes,
And Yeah, no, and I agree with you, and I think the other piece that we've put in place that has really assisted is the response to intervention,
Right.
which is changing to multi-tiered system with supports.
Changing to what?
It's multi-tiered system with supports.
just a rename.
It's just a rename.
Rebadging?
It includes behavior, though.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're looking more at the social emotional components that go into education. But those data teams meet first as a grade level, so I
Right.
can sit there, if Gina's in my grade level, have a conversation, maybe I'm concerned because I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it, but that child is not performing the way they should. So then I have the ability as a teacher to bring them to the RTI team, which is a group of veterans and principals and special ed folks, and discuss it. And the first goal is maybe I try some new strategies, because maybe that child just learns differently than I teach. Or I talk to Gina and say, how are you teaching this? Those type of things. And then I come back with my data, and I'll hope it goes well, and there is progress. If there's no progress, that's going to initiate a referral to the special ed team and the testing. And I think that's the culture from our teachers that we have, and I think that's why we're successful, to be honest with you, because we do have veteran teachers. They've been doing this a long time, and sometimes as a teacher you can't always identify something, but you can say to a parent, I'm just not sure what it is, but I have a concern, so I'm going to bring them to RTI, which means if all of a sudden all of us are discussing the same child, and it's, you see them in music, or you see them PE, you see them in all different places, we get a much better picture of that child. And then we work through the process. And it kind of goes the other way, because we have many children who will be released from special ed, and once they're released, we can't just cut the line and be done. It's, what are the supports they're going to need in the classroom environment till they finish with all their coping skills. And right now we're seeing an interesting data trend. We're seeing, special ed, typically second, third, fourth grade. That's when we're identifying kids that maybe aren't severely impaired. But we're also seeing a trend at the middle school where those numbers are coming down, because we've been able to get to the early interventions. And I can't stress enough that we have some great, I sit on the board of the Regional Special Ed Collaborative over in Amherst, which is a special ed school. And so we have a whole nother group of individuals that I'm on their board but have this special skill set, and this is what their whole life has been dedicated to. And we have utilized that for placement purposes, and students have gone there and done very well, and they've been able to tell us what they're doing, and that students return, and we're able to make, what I'll say, adjustments in our learning environments. It's an area that we have invested considerable time, effort, and money, but I think it pays dividends when we see those students walking across the stage and getting a diploma and being a part of their community.
Andy, I can't let go of this, I'm so sorry. The training for the LEAs and in the intensive care and the preschool are you looking at unique, I mean, the thing that would do me in if I were in that role is all the deadlines. The state mandated deadlines are just monumental. It's like this 9 circles of hell. So, but totally the right thing, because it protects, the progress for the student. So, just back to the question about how much support are they getting so they learn the law and really understand that it's how to apply it, not just for the sake of meeting the letter of the law,
Right.
but how to kind of think
place.
about it as a tool to help the student and the family, as opposed to, oh my God, I just have to get it in,
Yeah.
kind of thinking. That's the next level skill
And that's why I
development.
say, I don't want you to think these are newbies to the profession
Right,
that we're
right.
asking to LEA.
Okay.
These are qualified people, and then you have to understand that Sarah's office and Sarah's administrative assistant are tracking dates for all students.
Okay,
And
okay.
that goes on in every building, because.
So you're not talking about these folks, the LEAs, these stipend earners, sort of operating in their own little bubbles.
No,
They're
No.
fully integrated under the entire umbrella that Mrs. Prue
Yeah.
has been tasked with overseeing, and there's a data management that goes with all of it.
right.
And then Lauren oversees it all
Right.
as well. So
Right.
that, there's multiple layers built in so that there are no surprises.
I could also add, the comment has been said a couple of times now, are they going to know the law? Special education teachers, as part of their general teacher preparation work,
Sure.
even general education teachers, we have to take classes on special education law. So And because they have such a wealth of superiors that they could go to, I don't think there would be any concern because, as he said, they're not new. They're experienced. They know the law from that experience, and they have their peers.
And I think the word you used, Tammy, is probably the other piece that we don't always think about, but it is the culture.
Yes.
It's why people move into the district. Typically, when a parent has a special ed child and they're being forced to move, they do their homework.
Yep.
You know, they're going to call, they're going to want to know the supports, they're going to do their research. And in this area, you're going to narrow it down pretty quickly, and we're going to be one of those final districts that you may be looking for a home in that community. Because again, you know, parents want the best opportunity for their child, period. Whether that's their child's coming to us for, I'll say, social skills, or whether it's a, you know, a high-functioning autistic individual who needs social skills, but can already, as a 7th grader, do high school math.
Yes, we've walked all those walks. I'm not sure it's discreet to say this, so I'm going to say it anyway. Medical science has changed the flow of students into schools everywhere. We see students now who are medical miracles on a routine basis. But they don't arrive to us. So there's an associated burden sometimes with that great fortune. And so it's not only, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we're a destination district and therefore are seeing this increase in move-ins of students who need services and choosing us, but also there is generally an increase in the entire population of children being born in this era who there's an increased percentage of children, babies being born with needs. From what I've read.
No, that's accurate. We have children in our schools now that 20 years ago may not have survived birth.
Right.
And they are medical miracles.
Right.
And they are, in some cases, in the vast majority of cases of the kids that I get to deal with, are the absolute
most
joy of the
precious.
day.
So I do have a question. We've been kind of discussing these people who would be given the stipends, kind of in the abstract, as opposed to like specifically who they are and what their qualifications are.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Are we not?
No, only because off the top of my head, I don't want to say the wrong name. And but I'm happy, again, I'm going to email you on the paras.
Okay.
There's, you know, and again, Lauren was interviewing, because we do have people that are interested, and it's a stipend position, so.
Okay.
So could we learn in September when you've settled it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
step on
Yeah.
you. I beg your pardon.
Oh, no. So there's a vote on this, but the vote would be just for the stipend itself, not
No,
for.
there's no vote.
Oh, okay. All right,
This
there's
is,
no.
this
there's
is just discussion, just so you're aware. The
Okay.
stipend is something that, you know, again,
Okay.
to meet the special ed needs, I authorize.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Oh, you're looking at the
Yeah,
deliberation section?
I must have.
That's a
gotten
policy,
confused in
not
this
this
red.
particular thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Well,
right. Got
that's
it.
fine, but I'm happy to share that with you, Andrea. Again, Lauren was away,
Okay.
so we really, she's catching up on some things, so we really haven't connected on some things, but this is kind of really the last meeting before we open.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get it out there.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just, speaking from personal experience and people that I, have gotten to know over the years, just, you describe cases where, the parents kind of come in fully aware of what their needs are and what they're looking for. But, from personal experience and just knowing other people, a lot of it can sometimes be a complete shock that
Yes.
that
Absolutely.
actually there's a that you have a student who has
Right.
needs. All of a sudden, this was completely unexpected.
Correct.
And so navigating kind of like the emotional road of discovery,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Of basically as a parent. That's a huge component, and then on top of that, you're trying to navigate, your relationship with the school now, which is
Yep.
now completely changed,
Right.
right? That is a lot for a parent. I
Yes.
just want to make sure that, you know, the people that we've had, because I'm going to be honest, you know, I had a child here in preschool, and my experience was not positive. And I am to this day guarded
Yep.
and traumatized from that. And I don't want to see that happen to a parent, because we have an acting LEA who maybe didn't get appropriate oversight. I don't want to see that happen.
No, I agree with you. You know, I'll be honest, things do happen. And there are times where Lauren, myself, Gina, somebody is correcting something. But that does happen. I can't say with, you know, 2,400 kids in the district, those things happen. But at the same time, we're aware that that's when we need to reestablish trust, because that's really the biggest thing you've impacted.
Right.
Because you're being trusted with a parent's most precious
Right.
gift.
And the other thing that I want to just point out, just from my own personal experience, is you just said the word trust. I think these are people who are coming in new. This isn't like, you know, an upper elementary
Right.
family, right?
Right.
Who, you know, it's not their first time on the
Right.
rodeo, right? These are people coming in new, and this is your first chance to establish trust, right? And so I think that, at least in my personal experience, and I'm not the only one, having to rebuild trust after what, you know, that first couple of years with new LEA, there was a lot of unnecessary rebuilding of trust that had to happen. And so I think it's so important to get off on the right foot from day one.
No, we're in total agreement. But I'm not going to dispute with you that we're not perfect either, and these mistakes happen. But then, like all of us, you take a step back and you have to re-earn that trust. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna double down on what she said. Last school year, when we were dealing with this, the special ed policy that we're gonna revisit again today, I had to get on my soapbox about just what you said, except I was a lot less eloquent, a lot more hysterical. So, it goes back, what I said then, the content, not the style, was that too many parents are exactly what was just described. Deeply confused by the emotional impact. There's a ton of jargon. Even if every single thing is spelled out, it's a lot, right, to digest. And I mean, I've known people who were special ed teachers in other districts who, when their own child was diagnosed, they knew nothing. They became complete ignoramuses because it can't be my kid.
Right.
So, I want every policy to have a presence in it of welcoming and guidance. So, I think I underspoke today, but I overspoke back then, to her point, which is that when a parent comes in, whether it's a 3-year-old or the 6th grade, or now we've got a new diagnosis in middle school or even high school or whatever, the escalation process needs to be, I know it's explicit in the manual. I know that. I've got a bunch of them. We all do. I think part of making someone feel that they have trust with you is telling them, if I do something that really confuses you and I can't give you satisfaction, my boss is. That not because you want to encourage people to hop, skip, and jump, which I know there are lots of us. Bob Thompson called me a snowplow helicopter mom, so I completely get it. But, and that was an understatement, right? Because my kid is the kid you guys described. They used to tell me he's asynchronous, both ends of the bell curve. We've never seen a kid like this, all of which continues to be true. So, I think knowing what the accountability trail is in a chart even.
Yeah, yes.
I think that tells the parents in charge of their child, just like the law says, just like we all know. And so I know who to go talk to, gives me some peace.
Okay.
Yes.
As opposed to, I have to figure it out by reading a manual that by the
Yes.
time I get through page 3, I've seen so
Yeah.
many alphabets that I cannot even read English anymore. It's very, very trying.
You nailed it, and you said what I was kind of beating around, but it hadn't quite
And this is what
vocalized,
these
but
team
she's-
meetings are
that's
like.
exactly-
These team meetings are like this. There's a lot of stuttering and stammering and,
Yeah, yeah.
and
But you
ignorance,
got it
and
out.
not, right? So
No, I mean, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get personal and speak from experience. I was dealing with an LEA. I didn't know, maybe it was buried in the manual, but when you're dealing with this emotional roller coaster of discovery, and all of these, and life in general, right? And you get a stack of papers, you don't know what half of it means, half the words you don't, and I'm a lawyer, half the words you don't know what they mean. It never occurred to me that there was someone else beyond that, and it wasn't until that someone else actually reached out to me that I realized that there was someone else.
Okay.
And that was, honestly, that was a pivotal moment, because that was the beginning of the rebuilding of trust.
Yep. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So what she
Yeah.
says is critical. I cannot
maybe it's
stress
as simple as that.
how
Just something
important what
simple,
she said.
simple
Yeah,
little.
Yes.
no, we made a
know,
note. and
Maybe
this
on
is-
our
Right.
website, we have a student services section on our website. Maybe we can do some sort of like
Yeah.
chart there for all the districts that
Yeah.
would lay exactly this
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Okay, this has all been very helpful. This is why we have discussion topics like this, because again, it's an opportunity to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you guys have been in this for so long. Some of these people, this is their first child.
Right.
The last time they got involved with the school system was when they were in school, right?
Yep.
That was
Yeah,
me.
those are
And
good
like,
points.
I had no, and you guys know a lot. And so I think a lot of times, in your area of expertise, you tend to just, it's so obvious to someone who's an expert that they kind of, it's easy to forget that it's not obvious to other people.
Right. No, those are all very good points. And, we'll catch up with Lauren and we'll see what we can do to put together. I like Amy's idea of, kind of a flow chart, just for special ed, whether that comes to you at meetings or whether it goes on a website, we'll figure all that out.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I just want to say one thing. Perhaps as we think about the next year budget, if we are, I think that this program is growing, and is there a need for an additional administrator or additional support staff in the special ed department, just to give that some thought during the budgeting process this year?
Right, I mean, because, enrollment is growing.
Right.
And that's, we cut back when it was contracting, so
Right.
we just need to look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, my only thought when I saw this notice, I was you're talking about some other things, and I'm going, oh, money for for these shortfall areas. you
Yeah,
know.
Right. Okay.
deliberations.
Wait, Paul, sorry, so sorry, Gina. Sorry, one more thing, sorry. Nut does not fall far from the tree, okay? Summer Learning Academy RTI, when you talked about it right off the bat early, I wanted to interrupt, and you should praise me that I didn't. You said something that made it sound like anyone can, it's still an invitation process, right?
Well, we
for
definitely
students that
invite,
qualify.
but I don't think, I can't recall a situation where a parent has contacted us and asked about it, that we've said no.
Okay, interesting. All right,
Yeah.
so the process is still inviting students who you feel qualify for the need for ESY extended school year.
Not
And-
ESY,
No, not
it's
ESY,
RTI.
RTI.
So this is different.
This is
Yes.
different.
Okay.
It's a support mechanism for those kids who maybe just struggled on specific topics. Go ahead.
So ESY is
So-
invitation only,
Correct.
but this RTI Summer Learning
Yep,
Academy.
so this came out of our first, from COVID. So our first
Right.
ESSER funds, we put together summer learning academies that were remote options, they were Zoom options, and it was a way to sort of see if there, was a learning gap that was created during COVID. And then it was well received, and so we've continued it, modified it slightly based on just feedback and whatever, but it is an online option. There's a book club portion, so and it's based by grade and what they need, but there's reading, there's vocab, and
So you
and there's a
announce
math
it and
component.
parents sign up?
It's by invite and any inquiry about a
Excellent,
look for
excellent. Okay,
summer
great.
supplements.
Thank you.
And because it's online, vacations don't impact it.
Right.
So I think that's why it's also been popular, so that's why it stays. Now deliberations.
Okay,
Sorry.
deliberations. To see what action the board will take regarding policy IHBAA, determination of a specific learning disability, third reading and adopt. May I have a motion?
So who's the chair of the policy committee? One of you two?
I mean, chair?
And-
Does
and
that
the
count as being chair?
representative.
I'm on the policy committee.
So, a million years ago, I asked the board if it would be so kind as to establish a convention, not a requirement, that the minutes are presented by the secretary.
Yeah.
I would love it if the motions for the policies could be moved by the chair of the committee, when we have a motion on
Sure, yeah.
deliberations. If everyone is in agreement. I just think it brings credibility and organization to the process. Is
Yes,
that
no,
reasonable?
that's how we've been doing it, yes.
Sure. Let me pull up the outline.
Although I don't want to catch you off guard.
I
Okay.
haven't done this
All
before.
right, that's all right.
So, hold on.
It's on
Where-
page 3. Do you have the outline from?
I have it.
So I think it's on the bottom of page 3 should have your
yes.
motion.
So, member.
You just say, I move.
Wait a minute. This is set 12/7/22.
Wait,
There's a lot of
meeting.
notes here. A lot of notes, so if you could
So I know
scroll
page
down to
3.
page 4, you'll see in the outline, motion by member blank to accept the third reading.
Oh, okay.
So
Why
that's
does it
sort
say
of the way the
Arthur
motion's
on that
written.
other one? Okay. So,
Okay.
all right. So do I say?
You just say, I move to
Okay.
accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I move to accept the third reading and adopt the policy IHBAA, special education, determination of a specific learning disability.
And then I'll
Perfect. And then we
I'll
second by, okay, perfect. And then we discuss.
Right.
So at this point, you can discuss, or I can discuss, but I'll read it because it's a third and adopt. So there were no changes from the second reading. There was a delay, just because we take a break during annual meeting discussions. But this is, to Tammy's point of the discussion earlier in December and January, this is really just nuts and bolts specific to the state's requirement for identifying a specific learning disability. So it's the specific criteria that the state is saying you have to utilize for that diagnosis. So it's pretty much straight from the law.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? 400. Okay. Okay. So then we'll move on to the next one, which is policy EBB, school safety program.
So I move to accept the third reading and adopt policy EBB, school safety program.
Perfect. And a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
So once again, we saw this January 4th, and no changes were recommended at that meeting and discussion, and so the policy committee felt comfortable to move it forward exactly as is without any changes.
I guess I did mean to ask last time, I'm not sure I did. Was this change in policy driven by changes in RSA or changes in our experience with the committee, or both? Like, were there RSAs that required us?
It's a new
policy.
required by law policy.
Okay,
So it doesn't change our practice, it was just a new required policy.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Okay. 400. Okay.
Okay. All right, so this is where we made a few changes with wording. So I moved to amend the last sentence in the third paragraph by replacing. Is that where we are?
Yes.
Is that
that's right.
clear?
In reference to.
Yes, because it's not saying
IHBA.
which.
I would say I move to amend policy
See,
IHBA.
Yeah. I move to amend policy IHBA so that the last sentence in the third paragraph,
Yes.
by replacing and with the right to, in the first two bulleted items by inserting and at the start and deleting and at the end, and in the last paragraph by replacing and with a free and appropriate, quote, and inserting including those before determined to be, and except the second read, I'm sorry, that's
Yes.
it.
That's it, no,
Sorry.
continue, you're right. And
Oh,
accept the
and
second.
accept the second reading of policy IHBA. There we go. Programs for Pupils with Disabilities as amended.
Second.
Goodness. Okay. We talked about this for a while. Sorry. It doesn't matter. So yeah, we talked about this for a while. It was basically just wording. It didn't really change the content of the policy, but we felt that it was awkward as it was, and I think that we talked about that at the meeting as well as a group. So basically, we're just clarifying, and we changed it to a bulleted list as well to make it more readable for
It's a lot of
the
run-ons.
public.
So
Yeah,
we tried to make it
Yeah.
clearer and easier to digest.
we all felt it much better now.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Great, okay.
Okay, and that brings us to
One more, yep.
Yep, I move to accept the first reading of policy EB, Workplace Safety Program and Joint Loss Management Committee.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
So, as you can see, there are a lot of changes, including the title. So it used to be called Safety Program, but now it's Workplace Safety Program and Joint Loss Management. So this was a requirement that we do make this change, and it's really focused on joint loss management and about safety in the workplace rather than a safety program for students. So it's a sort of complete shift in the, I guess, purpose and intention of the
This
policy.
is actually the one I was referring to when I was asking you about the changes. I got
Oh.
EBB and EB mixed up. So this is driven by our experience, these changes,
This is driven by legal
by the change in the
requirements.
RSA.
Yeah.
So we had to redefine this policy.
Correct. We've had the Workplace Safety Program, we've had a Joint Loss Management Committee,
Right.
just never identified in policy in this way.
In this way.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes more sense, actually. I think.
Okay, all in favor of passing for first reading?
Thank you.
4-0-0. I have a general policy question. You probably know what it is. What is the status of the review of the policies by the NHSBA?
Well, funny you should ask. So, as you recall, we had inquired about doing a policy review from the School Board Association just to give us some direction. And so we printed and sent off all of our policies to the School Board Association in December. The site crashed, and then I received communication from the School Board Association in April that someone had disposed of all of our policies that were printed that they had copies of, and could we please provide them another copy? So this was at the same time that we were in need of copies of all of our policies. So it was just one of those great experiences. So we have since sent them additional paper copies of all of our policies. And they are in the midst of that. I was supposed to get an update in July. It is August 2nd. So I expect, we will be seeing Will Phillips in a
Yep.
couple weeks. So hopefully he'll hand over a review. However, the good news is in doing all of the review, our recording secretary was able to take notes on everything that she identified as maybe we did a first reading and then somehow lost track of that over time. So she has a to-do list for the policy committee.
good.
In
Boy.
addition to, she updated
The
the
lion
index.
tamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think between her work
Yeah.
and then the fall update that will come out shortly, and
Mhm.
when we receive that review
Okay.
from the School Board Association, we'll have lots of work to do.
Thanks for the
Great.
update.
The only other thing I want to make the board aware, you'll probably be getting an invitation from Dawn to see your availability for an SAU governing board meeting. The purpose of that would just be, we have somebody who's interested in the permanent position of treasurer.
Oh,
That's good.
Right, so it would just be more of needing to do that. We are looking at the third week of this month and the fourth week because we already have existing meetings in Co-op in Brookline, so it kind of puts us closer to a quorum
The
quicker.
16th
Yeah.
and the 23rd would be
Thank
those
you.
existing
Yeah.
meetings.
But that'll probably come out tomorrow or the next day from Dawn,
Okay.
okay?
great.
Do we need a non-public tonight?
We do not.
Okay, then I will accept a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Yes.
So made.
Perfect, okay, all right, and a second.
I second.
Okay, perfect, all in favor? Yay, we are adjourned at 7:19.
Oh, that's impressive.
All right.
Can I ask someone to